I don't think I've ever nicknamed any genitals, my own or anyone else's.
Nope.
Have you guys?
Nope.
No, I used to name my cars in college, but
Yeah, that's close
not
enough.
the same thing.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Scencast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yay!
Yay.
All right,
Yay.
very simple today. We're going to go right into the recommends and warns today.
Totes Amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award
Oh, for what?
for best movie ever made.
Woohoo! Nobody has to be pissed off about anything. So who wants to recommend and warn and rec-a-warn and warn amend and things?
Okay. I gave it a pause. I'm going first. I did my thing, flipping channels. Couldn't find anything good or anything that I wanted to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing on the movie channels that I had not seen was the movie Just Mercy with
Okay.
Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan and Brie Larson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Although-
I remember this.
Brie Larson is in it for legitimately like 6 minutes. Have either of you seen this movie?
No, it came out last year, didn't it?
I believe it was 2019, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had this in our fall preview, I think.
This
Back when
is-
you could do previews.
Yes.
This is based on a true story, and in almost every respect, it's pretty standard fare, I think. I want to tell you about this movie, but I had an unexpected emotional reaction at one point at the end of this movie where I found myself going, I thought this movie was just okay. Why am I crying right now?
Mm.
Now, it could very well be, this is my guess, that I was just in the exact right state of mind for the sequence I'm going to tell you about to hit me in the right way. But I also think this movie is sneaky good. The first reason is that Michael B. Jordan is as subdued as I've ever seen him. Like, Michael B. Jordan is usually good when he's Killmonger, and he's like, ah, or when he's in, even in The Wire early on. I guess he was kind of subdued for half that season. But Creed, we know him as like a big tough guy. And in this movie, you would even think a legal drama, he's going to have some scenes where he yells. And he doesn't, man.
Mm-hmm.
Is he the lawyer or is Jamie Foxx?
He's the lawyer. Jamie Foxx
Okay.
is on death row for a murder he didn't commit. The second reason I think you're going to like this movie, beyond Michael B. Jordan being subdued and very good, very engaging, is there's very little court in this courtroom drama. I think there are two scenes that I remember in court, and neither one of them long. But even his closing argument in the final court scene is subdued. It's not preachy and dramatic. And I think that's part of what hooked me in and allowed me to get emotional at it, is that it didn't push a lot of the buttons you would expect a legal drama to push in that regard. Brie Larson's fine. She's really wasted. I hope they shot a lot of scenes that just ended up getting cut because she's like his legal partner, but she's, I think, in 3 or 4 scenes, basically. Jamie Foxx is super subdued. Now, here's the sequence of events that got me. The movie keeps jumping between Michael B. Jordan and 3 guys on death row. It's Jamie Foxx, and on one side of him is Ice Cube's son, and on the other side of him is a guy I thought was Don Cheadle in aged up makeup, but it's not, and I'm doing that actor bad service right now. But it'll cut back to them, and they can't see each other, but they talk to each other, and one guy has music that they like to listen to sometimes, and Michael B. Jordan's character is going through, his name is Brian, he's going through this death row in Alabama where nobody really cares about any of these people, and he's trying to sign up as many of the inmates as possible to see what, if anything, he can do for them regarding justice, either pushing back their the name of when you kill a person for a crime.
Execution.
Pushing back their execution, or getting them out of jail completely, as is the case with Jamie Foxx. So sometimes these three prisoners are talking about what their most recent meeting with their lawyers was about. But you feel the bond between the three of them, which I thought was pretty interesting acting, because they can't play off of each other at all, because they're in three completely different rooms. And Michael B. Jordan becomes lawyer for, I think, all of them, but definitely for the old man. And partway through the movie, the old man gets his notice, and they've set his date for execution, and he's really somber. And at some point, Michael B. Jordan had promised, I'll be there for you. I'll be there for your execution. And there have been scenes like this in movies too. But the one added touch was he's sitting in the chair, getting ready to be executed, and you see the audience, and Michael B. Jordan is there, and all the death row prisoners start cheering and banging on the walls with their tin cups and whatever they've got around them, and they're making this huge noise. And it feels like a celebration, because this guy is finally getting off death row. And they're going to send him off with a smile. And he smiles. And they don't actually show the execution, but he starts to smile, and it cuts away. And that was very moving. But that's not what got me. What got me was then later on, Michael B. Jordan gives a little speech about how that impacted him and how hard that was to watch. And that's great acting. And then he gets Jamie Foxx off for the murder. And as Jamie Foxx is leaving the prison, all of the death row inmates start cheering and banging their tin cups and whatever they've got around them, because he's finally leaving death row. And I bawled. I don't know what happened, but it got me, and the tears just started coming. It was a very well... I think it's probably a just above average legal drama, if you want the truth. And for me on that night, it was just perfect. It just, all the beats lined up just right. And I loved it. It's a full recommend from me. So,
well,
there you go.
This movie has a 7.6 on the IMDb, and so it looks like a lot of people are discovering it and liking it. So
yeah,
interesting. You didn't hear a whole lot about it when it came out. Kind of generic title, and
that was the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And the trailer, which I watched a few times, doesn't really get into what Jeremy said was so impactful about it. And I think if they went that way, I would be more willing to watch it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm definitely going to watch this at some point. I've had some interest in that. So I definitely want to see it now. Over the weekend, David Fincher's new one, Mank, came out. Now I'm not going to recommend or warn that movie. We're going to be doing a mini pod on Mank that may come out before this podcast. I'm not even sure.
Manky pod.
Yeah, it's a Manky pod, a hanky manky pod.
Oh my god.
But after watching Mank, which is about Herman Mankiewicz, who was the screenwriter on Citizen Kane, and how he came to this story, how he came to write the story of Citizen Kane and everything. I was kind of interested in some of the bonus discs that I have on a Blu-ray that came out. It was the 70th anniversary Citizen Kane Blu-ray that I have, and it's got a documentary on it called The Battle Over Citizen Kane that came along with it. And it's really interesting watching the documentary after watching a big Hollywood production about the making of and everything, because that documentary doesn't really cover Herman Mankiewicz too much. I mean, they mention him obviously, but this documentary is about how William Randolph Hearst and Orson Welles were similar people, basically similar kinds of people who were destined to butt heads at some point. And it goes through Hearst's life, his early life, and the things that he did to accumulate all this wealth and everything, and on Orson Welles, who was who started off small, and he started doing these theater productions that got a lot of a lot of play, and he finally did. He did one that got Hollywood's attention to basically just say, "Here, just make whatever movie you want. You have total control," and that was Citizen Kane, obviously. And so it shows the sort of the it shows that he's making this movie that is so obviously about William Randolph Hearst and the trouble that he had making it, because it's so close to the guy's life, and it shows how much Hearst tried to end that film, and we almost never saw Citizen Kane because of it. There were some overtures to buy the prints and never show them and burn them.
Wow.
The main crux of the problem that Hearst had with the movie is that it got too personal, because, as we all know by now, if you know anything about Citizen Kane, Rosebud was the slang term, the nickname that he had for his girlfriend, Marion Davies' private parts. And so Orson Welles put that in there as the name of the sled and everything. And it depicts Marion Davies in such a way. It's played, I don't remember the actress who plays, but she plays Susan Alexander in the movie. It's talking about it. That's where the real problem comes in. And really the one of the great things this documentary does, and I think it was like in the 90s when this came out, is that it really discusses Marion Davies. And, I never really heard much about her. And there was a lot said about how she could have been one of the great comic actresses of her generation if Hearst allowed her to be that. Hearst, much like Kane does in the movie with Susan singing and everything, is very controlling about the things that she does. He's always trying to put her in dramas, these heavy hitting dramas and everything, and she never quite took off the way that she could. But if you like these kind of documentaries, I got a Ken Burns feel. It's not really a Ken Burns type of documentary, like with all the stills and the close-ups of pictures and things like that. But the narration of it and everything, it's I don't know. It's just one of those. It's very soothing to watch this documentary. It's very well done. You just have to appreciate a well done documentary. So the battle over Citizen Kane is a great sort of a companion to Mank, if you happen to watch Mank, that's on Netflix.
Yeah, I get into that. You ever seen Hearst Castle out in Malibu?
I
just
haven't.
north of Malibu?
I haven't, but they do show it quite a bit in this documentary.
It's amazing. It's
He has
amazing.
Well, I got the vibes that Ex Machina sort of kind of lifted the ranch that Oscar Isaac is on.
Yeah, it's a ginormous property.
Yeah, because he lives on something that is half the size of Delaware, I believe. That's how big it is. Yeah. And there's a point where he said we would be driving to this place, and people would ask, when do we get to his property? And so you're on the property is basically. So it reminded me of that Ex Machina thing, and I wondered if that was lifted from that essentially. But yeah.
Okay, so let me get this straight, because I've heard the story, but I don't think I understand it correctly. So William Randolph Hearst had a side piece named Marion Davies, right?
Yes.
And he named her Virginia Rosebud,
right?
Mm-hmm. And that was such public knowledge that Orson Welles could write that vagina joke or a term into his screenplay. Like, everybody knew that he called her business Rosebud.
Nobody
enough
knew that.
To where it could be public knowledge in there.
No,
or was that after the fact?
I don't think it has anything to do with everybody knew it. I think it was more the fact that it really hit home personally. Types like Hearst are not are not ones to worry about whether everybody knows something or not. It's just the fact that you needled him is enough. And what is it? I believe I'm trying to remember, because RKO 281, where Liev Schreiber plays Orson Welles, I believe it's in that movie. They try to say that Carol Lombard was the one who told Herman Mankiewicz about this nickname.
I see.
But I don't know. I'm watching RKO 281 again as well, and it's funny how completely different it is from the two things that I've seen on this, Mank and the battle over Citizen Kane.
Huh.
It's definitely taking more liberties, or who knows? Mank is probably taking a lot of liberties too. It's just but who knows when he figured this out? And if you believe the movie Mank, Herman Mankiewicz was always over there at the Hearst house, and before he wrote the screenplay. And there was even a thought, and this is what's brought up in Battle Over Citizen Kane, he would write a book about this, about all the things that he saw while he was there, and he just never had the courage to write it. So who knows when he figured that? He may have overheard it. He may have, there's a lot of different ways he could have heard. I don't think there's any definitive answer. Maybe there is, of how he learned that information.
I don't think I've ever nicknamed any genitals, my own or anyone else's.
Nope.
Have you guys?
Nope.
No, I used to name my cars in college, but
yeah, that's close enough.
Same thing.
You got to be really I guess creative to be like, you know what? I'm gonna call this something. I'm gonna call it like Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah, yeah.
I would call mine Pete Davidson.
Yeah, totally. You want to pull up a Pete Davidson?
Oh shit! I've got several, I think, but I'm gonna go with one here that I don't think a lot of people have seen. It's 1 hour of television on HBO, and it's the Euphoria special episode called Rue.
A special episode.
It is. So they started filming the second season, or they were about to pre-production maybe, of the second season of Euphoria, which, of course, Jeremy and I love. Chris, you saw that, right?
I did.
You did. And did you like it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm super psyched about season 2. But because of this thing called COVID, they had to shut down. And so they released this special episode. I had no idea what it was going to look like, because I don't, if you can do a special episode, why can't you do several episodes? I found out why. This is an entire episode of Rue, played by Zendaya, and her sponsor, her Narcotics Anonymous sponsor, who we had seen before. His name is Ali. He had been fairly prevalent in the first season, but certainly not a main character or anything like that. He's played by Coleman Domingo. And, so the entire episode, it starts with a nice fantasy sequence of Rue and Jules, her girlfriend, in the happiest of times. We don't know how close this is to reality, because they split up at the end of season 1. Then it goes into Rue meeting with her sponsor, Ali, in a pancake house, in a cafe, in a diner. And that's the entire fucking episode. The entire episode is essentially a therapy session.
Nice.
And but it's not. It's two people talking about their flaws, talking about their positives, talking about their relationships, talking about where they've been and where they want to go. It is one of the most authentic, beautiful pieces of television that I've literally ever seen. Ali does not come off as sanctimonious. He knows he's done some shit, because he's in recovery too. And one of his lines is, "I'm just a crackhead trying to do a little good in this world." But you know that he owns Rue, and I shouldn't say that, owns the conversation, because she will bullshit anyone. as you see in the first, from family to friends to her Jules to anybody. But this guy sees right the fuck through her. And it's a beautiful conversation. By the way, she is high at the beginning of this episode. She's fallen off the wagon. She snorts some pills. And he looks through it immediately. She's like, "Oh no, I'm fine." He's like, "No, bullshit. You're high."
I feel like every episode of Euphoria could be described as she's fallen off the wagon and gotten high again.
Pretty much.
Well, yeah, and you can see when she does stop. There's that stretch in the middle of the first season where, it's not the drugs, it's the depression, where she sits in her bed and watches Love Island for 26 hours straight or something like that. And you can tell, or the death of her father, the codependency that she has on Jules, she's a fucking wreck. And oh God, I want everybody to watch this episode because it's untangling. It's pulling out a thread in a sweater and untangling all of that, but it's just gorgeous to watch. I mean, I can't recommend this more. Euphoria, look up the special episode Rue. It's very, very condensed. It's very insular because of the COVID, I think, but also Sam Levinson, who runs the series, wrote this specifically for this character. They're coming out with another one after this about Jules, which I can't wait to watch.
Yeah.
But it's, man, you want to talk about a masterclass in some acting. I would compare this every day with My Dinner with Andre. It's absolutely perfect acting from Zendaya and Coleman Domingo, who I tell you, like I said, he's not really prominently featured in the first season, but he is a dynamo in this. And I want to see what else he does after this.
Wasn't Rue off the drugs about midway through that first season of Euphoria, and then she was forced to take that what was that really fucking hard drug she had to
it was like fentanyl or something like that, where the dude came over to the dealer's house. Yeah
it was fentanyl. Yeah, so she was off them at that point, right? She had been doing well until that happened.
I think even after that, because that third episode, I believe, of the first season is where she broke down outside of her drug dealer's apartment, where she was like, "You made me." It's scene is soul crushing.
Yeah.
And I think she gets clean because he won't supply her after that.
Right.
And then she does that whole thing with the guy above him. And I think after she and Jules really coalesce their relationship, I think she's off of it for a good amount of time until she leaves at the train station. Then she starts using again. So yeah, it's up and down, just like addiction is. It's such a good fucking series, man.
I definitely want to see that. I heard about it, but I didn't realize it had come out. So I'll definitely watch that.
It is powerful shit, man. I'm all for watching people act naturally and powerfully, and that's what this is, man. I'm a fan of man.
Yep.
Righteous.
Another round.
I got another round.
All right.
I want to record warn Creed 2.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, because I agree with that statement.
Okay.
I was not in any hurry to see Creed. I believed at the time that the Rocky franchise had squeezed every bit of juice out of that fruit. And then Stallone was nominated for an Oscar, and I got grumpy pants about it because I felt like, how can you give Stallone an Oscar for Rocky 12 and not Rocky 2 or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, he's awful in Rocky 2. No, I'm just kidding.
Rocky 5.
I finally watched Creed. This is a couple years ago. We were still doing in-person podcasts, which feels like 5 years ago. I finally saw Creed, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. So the other day, it was probably Friday or Saturday. I got up, turned the TV on. The only thing that was on that I hadn't seen, another Michael B. Jordan movie, Creed 2. And I was like, well, what the fuck? I'll give this a little bit of a look. And almost immediately, it's Ivan Drago back in the picture. I'm not trying to spoil the movie. This is like 5 minutes into the movie.
You know this from the trailers.
All right. And you see Drago training his goddamn son. I feel pretty bad for that actor because except for the final scene, he is given nothing to do.
Fuck no.
But be
Neither was Dolph Lundgren back in the Rocky IV, by the way.
Somewhat apt, right. Okay, there are things to like about this movie. This is why it's a record warrant. I think Stallone is good again. I think Michael B. Jordan is good. I think Valkyrie. God damn it.
Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson is great. But there's so much that bothered me. It kept me from connecting to the film. Like there are good and bad things about her hearing loss in this movie. Things I liked and things I didn't. There's a scene, because if you remember in Creed, she's beginning to lose her hearing. This is his girlfriend. And in Creed 2, before his opening match, she comes into the locker room and signs to him briefly. And the subtitles come up and tell you what she's saying. And I thought that was a very nice, very subtle touch. Like, yes, she is losing her hearing even more. And we're not going to make it a drama of the week point of the story, but they kind of do. He proposes to her when her hearing aids are out. So she turns around and sees him on one knee. And it's, I think, probably charming enough. Most people wouldn't be bothered by that, but it felt like her disability was serving the needs of a comedic beat rather than serving the character, even though I'm sure someone will tell me that this has happened where someone has had their hearing aids out and been proposed to and not heard it. And then their child, they get pregnant, and there's a great big fucking huge deal made about how scared they are that kid's going to be deaf. And it's probably what a parent would do. I'm not a parent. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I would imagine most parents would hope their child would not be deaf. But it still felt, the way the movie played it, a little cheap. The biggest problem I have here is the setup is fucking ludicrous. He's 6-0. Adonis Creed is 6-0. And big promoter guy goes, now is the time to pull the plug on this Ivan Drago's son. And they bring him over to America and they issue a press conference and a public challenge. You must fight me. And I'm like, dude is 6-0. Like, I remember when like Mike Tyson was fighting or Evander Holyfield, those guys were like 31-0, right? You get to 6 and I granted the opening fight where he wins his 6th match, he wins the belt. So he's the champ. And I guess that's enough for the Drago challenge thing to happen. But I was like, dude is 6-0. He hasn't earned shit, man. I mean, he have earned the belt by winning that fight, but 6-0?
Yeah. There would normally be a lot of just like garbage fights that they would try to milk for all the money that they could get before the belt. Yeah. Then he's ready to do it and everything. So yeah, you're right.
Now, here's what bothers me the most about this movie, and I'm ready for people to disagree with me, or for hopefully Barrett to agree with me, is that by bringing Ivan Drago back, you make this more about him than about Creed, Adonis Creed.
Yep.
And I know the movie tries very hard to give Adonis Creed motivation because this is the man that killed his father. I got to be honest. He should be 10 times angrier at Rocky for not throwing the towel than he would be at the boxer who threw the punches that ultimately killed his father.
What? You're blaming Rocky for Apollo Creed's death?
The movie does. The movie flat out.
No!
Creed 2 flat out says that one of the news reports says that Rocky took heat for not having thrown in the towel when Apollo Creed was killed. I'm saying, I'm not blaming Rocky. Yeah. I'm saying he should blame Rocky as much as he blames Drago. Drago was just punching. He was in a boxing match. He's doing what he was supposed to do. He didn't know the guy was near death.
Yeah.
But this movie makes Drago out to be like Zod from fucking Man of Steel. Like,
he's like the Cobra Kai guy in Karate Kid 2.
Exactly. And so then the movie has Michael B. Jordan flailing around trying to be the lead of his own film. And he shouldn't be, I will say. Another thing in the positive column is they bring Felicia Rashad in to play his mother. And damn, she's good. Like, I forgot how good she was. She's
in the first one, too.
Okay, I didn't remember that, but I forgot how good of an actress is. There's a couple scenes in here where she basically tells her son off almost, and it's just awesome to watch. Like, just somebody who's so confident in their acting. Anyway, so I didn't hate it. I definitely didn't love it. There's also a part where Drago goes up the steps and sees the Rocky statue, and hundreds of people are running up the steps imitating the Rocky Run, which means the statue and people imitating the Rocky Run is now canon within the movie itself.
Yeah.
And that was weird to me because I was like, the fuck? Like,
there were no witnesses in the movie.
People do that in real life when they go to those steps. And I think there's even a statue now because of the movie and people doing that in real life. But anyway, it was the movie made a lot of choices. I felt like I could see the absence of the director. God, I'm bad with names today.
Ryan Coogler.
Was
that was about to say the thing about Creed 2 that bothered me the most was that Coogler shot those fight scenes with some flair and like tried to do some things that were cool with it. And this is back to your basic quick edit punching boxing scenes. If I recall correctly, I haven't seen Creed 2 in forever, but I remember, like, you know, when you watch that first Creed, you're like, man, he's just like, they don't even cut in that first fight that he has, and it just feels real and awesome when the fights are going on in the first one.
Anyway,
I do have to say though, in Rocky 2, he does run through the neighborhoods when he's on his way back. He runs through the neighborhoods, and he's like the Pied Piper, like all of the kids join him, and the people join him as he runs up the steps of the art museum.
But does that get, like, within the movie, is that then like, oh, the news picked that up and now everyone does it every day?
I think everybody once they put the statue up there, because they put the statue up there in Rocky 3, that's when Clubber Lang challenges him. And so, it's grown in popularity by word of mouth or whatever around the neighborhood, that everybody knows that this is his route, and he finishes up by going up the stairs of the art museum, and they put the statue up there in Rocky 3 to dedicate it to him. And so that's why everybody does that. Now, in reality, the statue of Rocky is down behind a tree at the bottom of the art museum promenade. So that's weird. Yeah, but within the movie, I think, yes, people would be doing that.
I refuse.
I'm saying there's two different things going on, though. Just because they put a statue up doesn't mean they know about his run up the steps and him and jumping up and down and shit. You know what I mean? There's just because they put that statue up doesn't mean they know about that.
Well, he's saying because the kids followed him that one time.
The kids following them, sure, but like that would have to become a news story, and then it would have to, be a thing that everybody knows that he does, and it's permeated nationally. And then in Creed 2, it's something that has moved on for 30 years that people still do. Man, Rocky 3, there is nothing more stark about how different movies are than Rocky 3 when you compare it to Rocky 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen 3 in forever.
1 and 2 are 70s as fuck. Like, that first Rocky is like, you could actually say it's got a glacial pace almost. And Rocky 2 is somewhat, I mean, it's still pretty with coloring inside the lines and everything. Rocky 3, man. Rocky is rich now, and Stallone is different. Stallone is obviously super rich now, and like that whole opening sequence when he's getting that thing and he's about to fight Clubber Lang right there at the statue ceremony and everything. It's like, Jesus, this movie is so 80s. So 80s.
Yeah, he fights Hulk Hogan on that one. That was wild.
I don't think that. I think the fourth one is pretty fucking 80s too.
Oh, well, the fourth one is as 80s as it gets. I'm just saying when you
comparing,
there's nothing more stark in different, like looking at a series than watching those first two Rockies and then getting into the third one, because that third one is so different immediately. Okay. I may give you guys a choice about which one I want to talk about.
Ooh.
So I'm going to give you three choices, and I will decide to recommend or warn or whatever with these three choices. I wrote down Being There, the Peter Sellers movie from 1979, where he plays a simple gardener who becomes a really big deal because people think that his simple phrases are like actually supposed to be something deep and political and everything. And Peter Sellers is awesome in it. And there's two documentaries I saw. One is called Skin, A History of Nudity in the Movies. And another one is Belushi, about John Belushi.
I would pick Belushi.
I would take Belushi.
Okay. I will recommend Belushi. Belushi is on, I believe, Showtime. I saw this through Hulu or whatever, but Belushi's, the documentary that they're running is, I think, based on some phone conversations. So you actually hear people talking about Belushi, and I don't remember what year they got these interviews or anything, but people who really knew him and talking about his early life. This is something that I never really I don't think I've ever heard anything about Belushi other than his death. That's and you know, obviously the Saturday Night Live stuff, and a little bit through some of the National Lampoon stuff that I've seen has talked about Belushi, because their paths intersect quite a bit, especially with Animal House. But he was also a part of a comedy troupe that I think was based on National Lampoons. Hearing his wife talk about him back in the late 60s and how they were, I think his parents, he and James Belushi, his parents were immigrants from Albania. Is it Albania? They moved to Chicago at an early age, and just hearing about how Belushi wanted to become an actor. They went to some sort of, I can't remember what, I think they saw some sort of play or saw something on stage, and he told his dad, like right after that, I'm not going to be a part of the family business. And the family business was running a restaurant. He's like, I'm not going to be a part of this business anymore. I want to be an actor. And so he went and did summer stock right after that. And he started becoming a performer. And I don't think I'd ever heard this side of Belushi, how driven he was and how, to the point of being an asshole, which is what we always hear about when it comes to people who are really driven to be this one thing. And he didn't want to do Saturday Night Live. He thought TV was beneath him. He thought TV was an idiot box. And he really didn't want to do that. But, it takes him through this life, and like how he got up to this point where finally, he's on Saturday Night Live. And then first season, Chevy Chase is the big star of Saturday Night Live after one season. And Belushi didn't like that. Belushi wanted to be the guy who everybody talked about. And of course, then, it also talks about how he's first getting introduced into drugs and sort of I guess he was, I think he was depressed for a lot of his time. And he was happily married. He loved his wife, but he also would he would either cheat on her, or he would get back into drugs, and it would be hard to reach him and stuff. And so they put that thread in there as to how all this was leading up to his death and everything. But that documentary is really good because it's a side of Belushi that I don't think a lot of people really know. They know the sort of the buffoon from Animal House and Saturday Night Live and everything, and that, you know, comic genius type stuff. But I don't think anybody really, I don't know how many people really know about this drive he had in him to be the best and everything, and you know, that type of thing. So it's well worth watching for that.
Yeah, he was talented, man. You know, the drugs. Wish there was a way to do drugs without consequences, don't you? Because drugs are so good. Well, I mean, you could probably get by with fucking a lot more than you can with drugging. Like, drugs are really good. That's the whole point of drugs, is that they're awesome, and then they kill people, and it's just like, God damn it, drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can't you just be drugs?
The problem, and I think they discuss this, you know, and this is something that I think a lot of people know, but you know, the problem is always chasing that better high, that high that you got the first time, and you can never get that way. You can never get a higher high, and then so you start trying to get worse drugs, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Or you do more of them than you intended.
So again, just like sex.
Right.
Well, you could do both. Hey, how did he die? Was it cocaine that he died on, or was it? It was an 8-ball, wasn't it?
It was an 8-ball. He was started to get into heroin, and I think there were even some friends who were shocked that he had gotten to that point. But it also sets the stage. Like, I think a lot of times we hear, oh, Belushi was hanging out with Nicholson and Robin Williams at the time, you know, and this documentary curiously doesn't mention that. Not to say that it's not true, but it paints a more isolated picture. That his wife was doing a therapy session. She needed therapy herself. And that, you know, her psychologist said, you know, I need you to stay here, and we need to work on some things. Meanwhile, he was off in Hollywood trying to get this movie off the ground. I think he was trying to get this movie. I can't remember what that was. And
was it Neighbors?
Well, they did Neighbors, and Neighbors, you know, was not very well received, not very good.
Yeah, movie. It's not a very good movie.
But it was, I believe it was after Neighbors. It was a script that he was writing with somebody else, and he had, I think he had been informed that Aykroyd was writing Ghostbusters for him at the time too. But this was another script that he was working on. And like, as soon as they get done or whatever, he would just be in his apartment, and he would think of himself as worthless and that he wasn't, you know, good enough. And I think he writes a letter to his wife at some point saying, I keep fucking up and all this. It's obviously a really tragic story when you hear about all the things that Belushi was doing, but it really more paints the picture. Like, I think when I've heard of all the Belushi death stories, I've always heard, well, he was just having a grand old time, and oh boy, he went too far. And wasn't like that, according to this documentary.
Nah, it never is. It never is. That's why drugs piss me off.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking drugs.
Yeah,
it's called a speedball. I should know that because it was prominently featured in Eyes Wide Shut. But the speedball is the combination of cocaine and heroin.
Yes, exactly.
What? There's sex in that?
All right, everybody. It's time to talk about BetterHelp.
BetterHelp. I want to get real with you folks.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to talk about myself in this one because I've talked about myself and my journey. You guys don't care about my journey, or maybe you do, but I don't care right now. I want to talk about BetterHelp, the service itself. Online, accessible from many different devices, matches you up with a licensed counselor to go through a checklist of anything that you may be struggling with: anger, depression, anxiety, stress, addiction, substance use, relationship issues, LGBT related issues. This is all covered within BetterHelp's purview. You go to betterhelp.com/Scencast, you log on, you go directly to a questionnaire I used to give a lot of what's going on with you. And man, I tell you, that first step is just like a revelation of like, I didn't even think about this before. Am I having trouble with this? Am I doing well with this? Once you get through that, it's only a few questions. They match you up with a licensed counselor, and they contact you within 24 to 48 hours, and you're off and running. You have your own counseling room that nobody else besides you and your counselor can see. You can correspond with your counselor. You can set treatment dates or session dates. You can go back and forth about sharing material like checklists and worksheets and things like that, or questionnaires. It's absolutely beautiful. I cannot recommend it enough. This is the time to reach out to somebody if you're having any problems. Jeremy, do you agree?
I do. And also, I was just going to touch briefly on the fact of how BetterHelp makes therapy less scary. Some people are scared of therapy. I understand it. It sounds, I think, sometimes more frightening than it really is. In actuality, it's just, a professional helping extract the real issues and then working through them and giving you tools to cope and overcome those issues. But a lot of what's scary about therapy is, getting out, getting in your car, going to a strange building, sitting in a waiting room with other people who may or may not be looking at you, wondering what your problems are. And then sitting in a strange, weird smelling room with a couch that's weird and having to bare your soul. Whereas,
how weird is this whole experience?
There are souls to strangers online all the time on social media. I've got friends that I've made on Twitter that I've never met in real life that I talk to about anxiety and shit, and that's not scary to me. Yeah. You used to go on, for about a hot minute, you used to go on that chat roulette site and chat for a few seconds with some stranger from around the world. With BetterHelp, it should, to most people, feel like a safer way to share things that are bothering you, issues you're struggling with a stranger, because you're doing it from the comfort of your own home. You can wear your frickin' pajamas. You can do it on the phone. You can do it with video chat. You can do it with a text. You're in charge. And you're always in charge of your own therapy's trajectory. But with BetterHelp, that's even more the case.
Yeah. And if ever there was a time to stick your ass at home, this, as we record December 8th, 2020, is the time to do it. Mm-hmm. All right. I understand we all have to go out and do certain things, but to make you feel as comfortable as possible, you can log in to betterhelp.com/Scencast, get your therapy, your counseling right chow. You don't have to sit in that waiting room full of germs and kids and people and weird smells and stuff like that. You can just get right on it and talk to your person. Man, they've got good people working there. I've met many of them, and I can't recommend this more. We can't recommend this more. We have recommended it to friends and family, along with our listeners. BetterHelp.com/Scencast will get you 10% off your first month. Use that month wisely. Use the crap out of it. I mean, just bug the crap out of your therapist, and they'll be fine with it because that's what they do. Go to betterhelp.com/Scencast and start your journey today. All right, I got recommend. I got a big old recommend. I was going to recommend Krampus because I just watched that and it's delightful and I like it. But I rewatched a movie that we've kind of gently derided in this podcast over the years. And I have too. And I thought about it. I was like, I want to go back and watch the Royal Tenenbaums.
All right.
The Wes Anderson movie, 2001. So this is maybe his third, fourth movie, Bottle Rocket, Rushmore.
Yeah, it's his
third movie. Yeah,
because it came out in 2001.
Yeah. And it's got what is now accepted as a regular Wes Anderson cast. But at the time, after Rushmore had a good cast, but it didn't have an all-star cast. It didn't have Gene Hackman, Danny Glover, Anjelica Huston, Ben Stiller, the Wilson brothers, Gwyneth Paltrow, Bill Murray, all that stuff. And so this is a great ensemble piece. What I found is, by the way, the movie's absolutely genius. This is maybe... I know that we've talked a lot about Moonrise Kingdom as having the most heart of these movies, and I do love Fantastic Mr. Fox, but this is his masterpiece, I think. Rushmore is definitely up there, too. But it's before Wes Anderson gets real precious about his shit. Every shot is not centered in frame. There are some. All the dialogue is not stilted and deadpan. There are some very emotional moments in this, and it's about some serious shit, but it's also hilarious. And Gene Hackman, I don't think, has given a performance, and I don't mind saying this. Gene Hackman, this is maybe his third best performance that I have ever seen after French Connection and The Conversation. And Runaway Jury is up there, obviously, too.
Right.
But this is he's
and The Chamber.
And The Chamber, yeah. Desperate Measures or whatever the fuck it is.
It's Extreme Measures.
Extreme Measures, God damn it. So yeah, no, he's terrific. He's the patriarch of this family that gets estranged for 22 years, and he comes back, and hijinks ensue. If you haven't checked it out, it's wonderful. He is having so much fun because he's playing a guy that's all out of fucks to give. He Anjelica Huston raised their kids, played by Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Luke Wilson, and they're all geniuses, as they say. And Gwyneth Paltrow is married to Bill Murray, but she doesn't want to get with him. She wants to get with Owen Wilson, but really she wants to get with her brother. But it's okay because she's adopted. So
right.
But there's great lines. It's almost like in Moonrise Kingdom where there's just little funny, subtle lines in Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson, by the way, who co-wrote this one. In the dialogue where the dog dies in Moonrise Kingdom, and she's like, "Was he a good dog?" And the kid's like, "Who's to say?"
Yeah,
it's the same thing here, where Gene Hackman goes up to his grandkids who he's never really met, and they go up to him and they're like, "Who are you?" He's like, "You know who I am," that kind of thing. And he's like, "I'm sorry about your mother who died." And he says, "I'm sorry about your mother. She was a terribly attractive woman."
Yeah, yeah.
That's the best that he could come up with. But this, the music in this, the performances in this, the emotion in this, Luke Wilson has never been better. I'm very convinced. It is, I think, up there with a masterpiece, and I would encourage everyone to watch it.
Jeremy shaking his head.
Man, I hate this movie.
Why do you hate it? Why do you hate it so much?
I feel like it's the very moment he became precious, not before he became precious. And I think it's bleak and dour. That's all I have to say about that. I don't.
Did you watch it once or a couple times?
I've seen it
I don't mean to be pedantic about it.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times. I don't think it has anywhere near the heart of a Rushmore or a Moonrise Kingdom or even Grand Budapest Hotel. But I respect your opinion. And I know that Wes Anderson is uniquely divisive, even amongst his fans. People can't agree which ones they like or dislike. So it's totally fair that, and I may be the outlier here. I can't stand that movie. I may watch it again if it comes on just to see if you were right, but I doubt it. I mean, you may be right, but I doubt that I will watch it again to see if you were. Is what I'm saying. That movie's not my buddy.
I haven't seen it since it came out, but I suggest that both of you find the article about how Gene Hackman was such a prick on the set of that movie.
Oh
no!
I've heard that. Yeah.
Find that article because it's really fun to read. I think most people are saying, yeah, he was such a dick, but still loved working with him. And everything like that. I mean, I think you kind of have to be that way about Gene Hackman, but But yeah, he's exactly the kind of the gruff characters that we know from the screen, from what I understand. He doesn't suffer fools and that type of thing.
I saw a pretty funny story the other day. Leonardo DiCaprio was being interviewed, and I guess in the interview he talked about how Scorsese sent him, Leo, to go get Daniel Day-Lewis to become part of Gangs of New York. Because at the time, Daniel Day-Lewis was retired. And so Leo convinced him to do the movie, and they were doing table reads and whatnot. And every morning, Leo was like, we'd pass each other and be like, hey, Daniel, hey, Leo. And like the first day of shooting, I walked by him in the morning and I said, hey, Daniel. And he went, Argh! And Leo says, and that's when I knew it was on. And he never broke character from there to the end of the thing. Like, he said he had turned into Bill the Butcher. And it's a pretty interesting read. I'll see if I can find it.
That's hilarious. I was just thinking, like, the only performances by him, and say what you want about the movie, he's terrific in the movie. Like, I mean, maybe Hoosiers comes close. Unforgiven comes close to me. Mississippi Burning comes close. But I don't think he has as much range, even though he's an irascible asshole in this movie. I don't think he has the range in those movies that he has in this one. Even though I love all those movies. The Firm, he's playing, I don't know, he's playing a pretty one-note character. So yeah, I think it's good.
All right, doing a roundup of what we recommended and warned and everything. Jeremy recommended Just Mercy, and then God. See, now this is going to be always tough trying to remember everybody's.
I warned Creed 2.
Recca warned Creed 2. I recommended The Battle Over Citizen Kane. It's a documentary about the making and the clash over Citizen Kane. Also recommended Belushi documentary, which I believe is on Showtime. And Barrett recommended the special episode of Euphoria called Rue that they made, I guess, during COVID, and has recommended the Royal Tenenbaums. So a lot of positivity today.
Yeah, look at us.
Yeah. All right, everybody, it is time to talk about Mubi once again.
Yeah.
I watched a movie called The Girl from Parma.
I saw that on there.
Yeah. It's a 1963 Italian film starring Catherine. I don't know the last name. Catherine Spack. I don't know. But it's sort of her journey as I guess she's just turned 18 or she's 17. I don't know what they don't give an age, but she's around that age, and like she's so beautiful, so beautiful that, like, every guy in this movie wants her. Every time they run, anytime a guy runs into her, they want her. And the movie is sort of told in a past and present kind of thing. And she comes to visit her. It's her mom's friend and her husband in this town of Parma, and she's got this, like, I don't know, she's got these brunette locks, but every time you see her in the past, she's a blonde. And when it goes back, it shows sort of how her journey of how she got to Parma. Meanwhile, Parma's got its own set of stories and everything that she's going through. But yeah, she's so beautiful that she gets a guy who is going to the seminary to have sex with her, basically.
Oh no!
Yes, she's just happy. She happens to be like swinging out on a beach, and a guy who's a photographer basically makes her a model for a while, and it's sort of her story as she gets up to the point where she moves to Parma or whatever, and it's just interesting watching her all the way through this because she's just gorgeous. Just I'm trying to come up with like a modern equivalent of what she looks like. The closest I could come up with is like Britney Spears or somebody like that. But it really doesn't quite do the description justice and everything. But it's a really funny movie, really well done. And I was getting towards the end of it. I was like, man, I might want to watch this one again, shortly after this. And it's rare that I see a movie these days that I'm like want to see immediately after again, just because it was so good. I wanted to watch it with the context of knowing what happens and everything. So yeah, The Girl from Parma is on Mubi right now. Really, really good and recommended.
Awesome.
I like that. I like your idea. I frequently do that, knowing the context. I did this with Watchmen, Breaking Bad, that kind of thing, where you're like, I know where this ends up, but I want to see the journey again. By the way, Parma, Italy is home to two classic food items. Prosciutto di Parma.
I know rigatoni.
You know what's funny? You guys are talking about the foods. There's a point where this guy named Nino, who's the photographer that discovers her or whatever, he goes to jail, and she visits him in jail, and he says, they're sort of catching up, and she goes, I'm thinking about going to Parma. And he goes, oh yeah, Parma. That's where they have, and he starts listing off all these different foods that they're known for.
Yeah. They also are the home of Parmigiano Reggiano.
I figured that. That's why I made the joke about the rigatoni.
Anyway, movie's awesome. Movie has cinema, people, about Italy and things and stuff. I love movie. I want to inject it into my veins. I watched a movie on here that's a complex, difficult movie.
Oh yeah.
It's called Liberté.
Yeah.
And it's a French movie, historical drama about cruising and fucking. Now I know it's shocking for me to watch a movie about fucking. But this one caught my eye, and it's about more than fucking. But on the face of it, there's a lot of weird fucking. So a bunch of aristocrats are getting expelled from, I think it's Louis XVI, his regime in France. And so they're moving to Germany, and they're like, all right, we believe in free love and libertine values and anti-morality and anti-authoritarianism and stuff like that. And so they're cruising down to Germany, and they meet up with a duke, a kick-ass duke, where a German duke, where he's like, hey man, there's some shit going down tonight. And so they stick out there, and then the rest of the movie, 2-hour movie, rest of the movie takes place in this forest where people just kind of like commingle. It's not an orgy. It's more spread out to where there's more like, there's a couple of people here, there's a few people here, there's somebody in the carriage, there's somebody in there. It's challenging to see what this all means. And it's directed by a guy named Albert Serra, 45-year-old, I think, Spaniard. And he's known as like a Gaspar Noé, enfant terrible, or whatever. I can never really settle on the pronunciation of that term, but he pushes the boundaries of vulgarity and what you want to see, especially in historical context, like period pieces. And so this is definitely worth watching. It's very interesting. This is set before 1776, so in the 1770s, and it shows how debauched people have always been. You think you've had weird fantasies like Randall Park in a diaper in Office Christmas Party? Wow, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but no, people have had weirder shit than you since the beginning of time. So anyway. That's some of the stuff that you get in Mubi. You can explore cinema in their 30-day lineup. They have a new film added every day. So you can't get sick of things because they rotate. They put new stuff in, and it's at the top of the page, and it's beautiful. And then they have a library where they've got a bunch of films that they've had on the platform before. Some they imported directly into the library. It's glorious. It's a streaming curated service. So you don't have to just kind of click around and be like, I don't know what I'm in the mood for. I don't know if I want this. I don't want to do that. No, they kind of push you into different directions, and it explores and expands your mind. Go to mubi.com/cinemasins. You get 30 days free. Ain't no catch here, people. 30 days, a whole month free of beautiful cinema that you can explore and you can bathe in and stuff like that. Mubi.com/cinemasins. You're going to love it, baby. Just trust. Yeah, Chris, you vouch for this, right?
I do.
Jeremy, you vouch for this, right?
I do.
You guys listen to us. We're not going to steer you wrong. It's free for the first month. I'm getting combative right now because if you haven't signed up, you should already. Do it right now. I'm just kidding. I love you, but sign up for Mubi. Mubi.com/cinemasins.
Do we have any time for some questions?
Yeah.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth. I am listening.
I'm going to start with the new ones because the new ones get my testes all tingly.
Oh, nice.
Love the yeah, right. Love the podcast. Thank you. Just wanted to say thanks for the recommend for Barry. I just finished season 1 and loved it. I'm also going through the other podcasts that Chris and Barrett did with our buddy Mike.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch season 2. I fully recommend that. Question for the pod. What is the best or worst montage in any movie? Keep up the great work. Okay. One caveat. I don't think any of us came up with the worst because there's a lot of bad ones. But what are some of the best montages? I love this question.
Yeah, I don't think there's very many worst because there's not many. I mean, those worsts would be the ones where it would be nice to have a little bit more information about how a person became awesome at doing this one thing that they're montaging or whatever they're doing, and then they just kind of skip over it or whatever. But the best ones that I came up with, Team America has one that's basically making fun of montages, and it has that song, I think it's just called Montage. And
you're gonna need a montage.
Yeah. It's like, and like, every time we show them a little bit more improvement and so on and so forth, or else the show would get too long. So I believe they had done this on South Park before Team America did it, but it's still funny as hell watching him because he's got to go through his training montage and everything. Up's opening sequence montage, which shows the life and death of the dude's wife at the beginning of it.
Let me ask you this: is that the only reason to watch Up?
It's funny that you mentioned that because there's another question in which I bring up this very thing. So maybe we'll answer that question. If we don't answer that question, I'll have the discussion with you.
Okay.
But I bring this up in a later question. And then I also have the Naked Gun on here where they have that love montage. They have that when Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley are first starting to like date and everything. And, they're squirting each other with mustard and ketchup and all that. But the funniest thing about that fucking montage is them coming out of a theater laughing and the theater's playing Platoon.
Yeah.
That's the funniest fucking thing ever.
What is the song? Is it Something Tells Me I'm Into Something Good?
Herman's Hermits. Yeah. The Into Something Good or whatever. Something tells me I'm into something good.
That's funny. I wonder what the age difference is between Leslie Nielsen between Leslie Nielsen and Priscilla Presley.
Well, Priscilla Presley, I believe, was about 40.
Was she really?
She was in the 30s, maybe late 30s.
She looked great.
Yeah, she did. She did. When she did that. So Leslie Nielsen probably was. It was probably a good 20 years. I would imagine it was about a good 20 years there.
You know.
All right. Are you done? Was that all your montages?
I'm done. You guys can go with your montages now.
I just wanted to I just want to use this opportunity to try and get people to watch Moneyball. But
Yeah.
Moneyball has a couple of great montages, especially at the end when they're on there's a whole section of the movie with a title card where they call it the streak, or they're on this absurd winning streak to end up making the playoffs. But there's a montage just before that where what Billy Beane is trying to teach these players is finally starting to click. And you see this montage of him in various locations in the facility and on the field, like working with players and teaching them. And you see, like, there's even a shot of Chris Pratt going, I could even take a few strikes, but I'd get on base more. And it's just like the message of how they're trying to play baseball is starting to click. And the music is awesome. And then it stops and there's no music. And you see Brad Pitt with these old man glasses and he's looking at these numbers on his computer screen and they don't mean anything to you. And he's looking at these numbers. And then it just kicks right back in and you hear an announcer go, the Oakland A's are completely out of hand right now. And the music swells back up and there's a second half of that montage. I love that beat. I don't know why. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like the heart of the movie almost, because that's what Billy Beane is doing is he's chasing this mathematical thing that he believes is a certainty. And even amidst the noise of the team swelling and doing well, he's still in some room looking at these numbers, trying to make sure it's all going to line up. Anyway, those montages rule. That was my pick.
That's a great organic performance. My favorite part is not a montage, but my favorite part of the whole movie could go completely overlooked is where he's walking by the locker room after they lost, and you can barely hear anything, barely. And then he stops, and he goes back, and he opens it up, and Giambi's up there like partying with his fucking like dick out or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just says, fuck him, we're trading him. And everybody's like, what? That's our only good player. What the fuck, man? And it's just like a moment, a second where he turns around and that really kickstarts the whole thing. It's before that montage, I think. I love that movie.
I love the shit out of Moneyball too. And here's an interesting thing I go through though every time I watch that movie. That scene where they're on that big, huge winning streak and they're up 14-0 or whatever when Billy Beane is driving down the road and he turns around and everything. I have mixed feelings about that scene, even though I love it. I love it unconditionally. But the way that it's done drives me crazy sometimes just because of the ebbs and flow of baseball itself.
Yeah.
And so like, the way they portray that game as, I think it's the Angels they're playing or who are coming back on them. I can't remember what team is actually coming back in this 14-0 whatever game. But there's a lot of like really like fits and starts and like overly dramatic like beats to it and a lot of like loud crowd cheering, nothing. Silence, loud crowd, and there's a lot of that going on in that scene. It's like, it's one of those things I love unconditionally, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, like movie wise, is this the best way they could have done that?
Well, and that's
you're talking about when he turns around and comes back to the game to actually watch it in person.
I've been saying all this time that it's bad luck for him or he doesn't watch games, and they're on this 20-game winning streak, and he's on the road, and they call, and whoever calls him, and he's like, "Come on, man, I don't want to hear about this or whatever." He's like, "No, dude, we're up 12-0 or whatever." And so he turns around, and as soon as he does and gets into the ballpark, that's when everything starts turning around. And they actually they get it tied and everything. And then of course Scott Hatteberg, played by Chris Pratt, hits that big home run, which makes me always go to YouTube and find the real one.
I need to do that. I've never done that.
Yeah.
I don't like the way it makes the movie strongly suggests, I think, that they start losing in Billy's mind because Billy came back to watch.
Right.
And that's extremely frustrating and very easy timing for a screenwriter to do. And yet there are plenty of things about this movie that are fictionalized. And I always figured that was one of them. Whereas the score, I think, is actually what the score was in that game in real life. So anyway, Moneyball rules.
All right. Well, I got to put the, after I answered this, I don't know if it counts necessarily as a montage. I don't even know how montage is defined in cinema. You obviously have to cut back and forth between different time periods and different locations, but this is all in one time period.
I believe all it means is just there's a number of different locations and actions happening all in one space. It doesn't. I don't think it necessarily even means a huge amount of time has passed. I think it just means you are showing 3 or 4 different scenarios in a quick paced manner.
I see. Well, to me, the top of the list, unsurprisingly, is the Godfather, the baptism scene, where he takes out the heads of all the 5 families. And I love how this builds because you see Clemenza getting ready, just like putting his stuff on and that kind of thing. And you're like, okay, but it looks like Michael's kind of turned a corner. He's married to Kay. He's going to be he's going to the baptism. He's going to be Godfather, Connie's baby. And like, everything's cool. And then you see the Chi-Chi getting ready for something. And then you see the guy dressing in a police uniform. I don't even know who this guy is. And you're like,
it's
what the fuck's going on?
Isn't that the guy who is oh God, they do introduce that guy though, right? Like that young guy that plays the police.
I believe so. I forget his
He's
name.
Either like new, like not capo, but maybe he is a capo. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. I'll look it up. But, and then you start, and it's this amazing Latin prayer that the priest is saying, and you hear the pipe organ in the background, and then it stops. Then he says, Michael, do you renounce Satan? And he's like, I do renounce him. And then the bloodshed starts. Everybody. He's locked in a fucking revolving door. And then he gets on the elevator. Boom! Clemenza blows his head off. And then fucking Mo Green's getting a massage. He puts on his glasses. Boom! Right in the fucking eye. It's so great. He's like, do you choose to be Godfather? He's like, I do renounce him. It's a fucking free-for-all. It's fucking awesome.
The 70s violence, man, there's nothing more brutal than that. I don't think there's something about so 70s violence that's crazy. I mean, it's I don't know what it is. It's not the blood. The blood's fake as fuck in the 70s, but
it is
the sort of the blunt force of all the stuff that's happening is just, filmmakers were just like, fuck it. Let's just show how violent this is.
It's so great because you see Tattaglia and you see the other and Barzini and you see all the Dons, the New York Dons get off, and you're like, okay, I kind of get this. But then Mo Green, who dares Mo Green is standing in. By the way, I read about Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was kind of the Mo Green of Las Vegas in real life. Like he owned the Sands and like all the big hotels out there. And so Mo Green is kind of an afterthought. He's in one scene essentially, and he denies Michael, I'm fucking awesome. It's just like, yeah, you too, man.
Yeah.
Why are you getting a massage? It's so good. Anyway, and I got to throw some love. I think I had another one, but I don't care. I got to give some love about Victor Kip Pardue's speech in Rules of Attraction. So I went back and watched that again, and it's so deadpan about like you can't even tell where he takes breaths.
Yeah,
and it's just like I met this girl in Germany. She let me suck her toes. We fucked. And then I took some mescaline and got lost on the subway for the whole day. Couldn't find my way out.
Yeah.
It's the most debauched trip ever, but also like it's so deadpan that it's such a juxtaposition. It's so great. Now it's got some very Bret Easton Ellis type dialogue that doesn't play today, but like. Some guys that were following him around and giving him rides and stuff like that. But he is much like everybody in a Bret Easton Ellis based movie. He's a terrible person. This is a terrible trip for everybody involved except for him. But
Yeah.
it's so funny.
They do something similar in Boogie Nights. I mean, not the montage, but just the deadpan about like some things that you normally don't deadpan about. Like they have that scene in Boogie Nights where Ricky Jay is like, all right, so then Candy it's William H. Macy. It's like, all right, so Candy and Jimmy come in and then Bobby walks in and then they fuck. And then they go over and then we have the scene set up where Jimmy comes in and meets Jerry and she gives him a blowjob. And
that's how that is though, man. I want to, before I die, I think I'd like to go to a porn set and just see what's going on. Because you think about like even the performance. The performances are not stellar. They're not Oscar quality. But you also got a camera in your face by probably some like sweaty dude that's baking in the lights and everything. And you got all these cables around. And then you got a dude like thrusting on top of you. And he's probably all sweaty. And then you get the director just kind of like sitting in the chair like, okay, move over there. We got to get an angle of the anus.
I think you are vastly overestimating the scale of porn productions. I think the sweaty light dude, the director, and the cameraman are all the same person.
There's probably more than one. In an average, not like amateur or whatever, but like an average professional porn shoot, there's probably 2 or 3 cameras, right?
I don't know, man. I don't think there's.
Probably. I wouldn't think. I think it's all single cam.
Well, I'll report back as soon as I go to the Valley and check it out.
Sweet.
Go to www.visitapornshoot.com.
On the back of Chris's warn a few episodes ago, what are some films that you've gone in trying to figure out the twist, but not been able to? Or conversely, ones that had a twist you weren't even looking for? Generally, I just try to enjoy the movie without trying to figure things out, unless it's a mystery / thriller. So if there's a twist I didn't see coming, it clearly wasn't well disguised. I agree with this. I generally try to kind of roll with it unless I'm really trying to figure something out because the movie demands it. What do you guys think?
The one that there were 2 I weren't looking for twist in. Was The Quiet American. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Quiet American.
I did. Forgot all about it though.
Michael Caine and Brendan Fraser, and I think that I don't remember too much about it. I know the movie's been made a couple of times. It's based on a popular book or whatever. But I don't remember too much about it. But I do remember Michael Caine's revelation that that he was observing Brendan Fraser, and he could tell that he could speak Vietnamese like it was his native language. And this is something where I don't think we're supposed to know that Brendan Fraser is like a CIA operative yet. And so at that point, Michael Caine is telling somebody this story, and he's like, I was watching him, and he was speaking Vietnamese. He was speaking it like it was his native language. And it's like this big, this guy's been fucking everything up. He's been like setting up I think he's setting up like a secret war with a different kind of like a group of like mercenaries or something like that while he's out there. And that's something that we don't know about Brendan Fraser's character the entire time. And I don't think I was even conscious of there being a surprise of that nature in the movie. And then Rules of Attraction, strangely enough, has a moment where we find out who's been giving the love notes to James Van Der Beek in the movie. Then it shows, and the movie is really cool about how it shows this character in the background of a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately she kills herself by the end of it, but he thinks that Shannon Sossaman is the one that's been sending him the love notes this whole time, and they're operating on these assumptions every time they run into each other, but then we find out later that she, the girl who's been sending them, he's been ignoring the entire time, and they do have a segment there where they show that. So I thought those were good surprises.
Good job. I like those. I think the best twists are the ones when you're not expecting a twist, obviously. When you have detective stories, murder mysteries, and kind of built in that you're trying to guess the twist. But Black Swan is a good example of one that I did not guess any kind of twist was even coming. I was just watching a movie, and at the end, during that final thing, when everything is sort of revealed, I was surprised by that. But I watched a movie yesterday that I had to find a way to talk about. I squeezed it in as an answer to this question because I tried to guess the twist, and it was impossible because this movie is so fucking bad. It's called Perfect Stranger, and it stars Halle Berry, and it came out in 2007.
Yeah, it does.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie, but I don't remember anything about it.
Oh my God. Bruce Willis is in this movie. Giovanni Ribisi's in this movie. Halle Berry reconnects with an old childhood friend, and this childhood friend, Grace, says, I need your help to expose Bruce Willis, big businessman, for all this evil shit he's doing. And Halle Berry is a journalist, convenient. And she says, sure, I will help you. And then before she can, Grace, her friend, gets murdered. And so Halle Berry teams up with Giovanni Ribisi, another reporter, tech guy, and they decide to investigate Bruce Willis, and they're going to take him down for the murder of Grace. And like one of the first scenes, within the 30 minutes, Halle Berry's having sex with some guy in her apartment, and it pans long and slow over to show that fucking Giovanni Ribisi is standing in there listening to her fuck this dude. And you're like, well, maybe Giovanni Ribisi was a bad guy, right? He's not a good guy if he's just eavesdropping on sex. Anyway, back to the main plot. Halle Berry gets a job as an intern at Bruce Willis's company, sparks his eye, flirts with him, and he suspects her of being a spy from a rival business company. And so she finally has to admit, I was, because he's going to fire her. And then they have dinner, and he wants to take her out to dinner. And she's getting closer, right? She's getting closer. But then there's this scene where she goes to Giovanni Ribisi's house, and he's not there, but the door's open, and she goes inside, and she hears her own voice saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. She's like, what? She follows the sound of her voice, and she finds Giovanni Ribisi's sex room, where he's got these computers with her picture on a torso of a mannequin, and then the computers are like Grace, her friend from childhood, fucking some dude, and you're like, what? It's Giovanni Ribisi, and she's all scared, and then he's like, no, I'm not the killer, I'm just a weird sex pervert. And so they decide to continue working together, and they get Bruce Willis arrested. He goes to trial, and he is convicted. And you're like, all right, it was Bruce Willis all along, right? And then Giovanni Ribisi comes over to Halle Berry's house in the final scene, and he's picked up on a couple of things. And the truth is revealed that Grace, the childhood friend, well, she had witnessed childhood Halle Berry and her mother kill and bury in the backyard an abusive father.
Yep.
And she was now in modern day threatening with this secret murder knowledge to blackmail Halle Berry. So Halle Berry is the one that killed her childhood friend Grace, right?
Right.
And there should not be any reason for this movie to exist. Why did she start an investigation into Bruce Willis about her friend's murder if she was the goddamn killer? Right? So they're about to embrace it. Giovanni Ribisi makes that I've just been stabbed off-screen face, and it pulls back, and Halle Berry has stabbed him. And he falls down to the ground bleeding, and she feels bad because he's just a sex pervert. He wasn't a killer, and he was his friend. She lays down to cuddle with him, and the camera slowly pans up to show you one of her neighbors was looking out his window and saw all of this. Dun, dun, dun.
Wow, that's
And
like 5 twists.
I gotta tell you, man, like it was directed by James Foley. I looked him up. I can't remember what it was.
James Foley did Glengarry Glen Ross, and he did
Glengarry Glen Ross
At Close Range, but he also did was it one of the 50 Shades movies he did?
I think you're right. Anyway, the screenwriter, somebody was going for something. They thought they had something here.
Is this the movie where I'm trying to remember because there's a lot of twisty Halle Berry thrillers. But there's a scene where I think she goes to the computer and the autofill fills out something that she's already looked at or whatever. And so that was a clue, an early clue in the movie that she was the killer, because when she's typing it, that autofill shows something that she was searching for or whatever.
Really?
It might be some other Halle Berry thriller though.
There's still no reason for her to do a whole investigation and go to work at Bruce Willis's company and try and spy on his computer shit and then eventually get him convicted. There's no reason for that. She's not a suspect. She's not a suspect at all. She puts herself into, oh God, this movie frustrated the shit out of me. It was like they got to the end and they were like, what would nobody expect? She was the killer. Let's do that.
Yeah.
God,
yeah.
This is a full-on warrant, even though we're not in that warrant section anymore. We're doing questions. I did not see any of those twists coming because those twists are, frankly, stupid and ludicrous.
Yep. Maybe she's just crazy, man.
Perfect Stranger. Wow. Balky Bartakamus is not in this one.
Nope.
No, it's a singular. It's not. It's Perfect Stranger. There's no S.
Gotcha. I just have two. I think I knew who done it in Knives Out. Even though everybody's obvious, but nobody's obvious. The poster that I have of Knives Out is the tagline is "Hell, any of them could have done it," which is true. But I had an idea of who did this. Didn't know how. And that was very pleasurable to figure out the how of it, even though the movie kind of tries to misdirect you onto who this might be. But I am saving the spoiler just in case you haven't seen Knives Out. If you haven't seen Knives Out, fucking see Knives Out. It's fucking amazing. And I gotta say that the end of Clue is one of the most unique endings I've ever seen, especially to a murder mystery. Where even when I saw it at probably 8 years old, something like that, I was 10 years old, something around there. I was like, what? Because they go one way and they're like, all right, could make sense. Fine. And then that title card comes out. Well, that's what could have happened. But here's what also could have happened. And then you go into the whole Mrs. Peacock thing. And that ends. And Wadsworth is with the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and shit like that. You're like, oh, well, all right. And Mrs. Peacock, no, here's how it really happened. And everybody murders everybody. And that's just such a satisfying ending. It's so hilarious. Everybody gets to shine, especially in that last sequence. That's where the famous flames on the side of my face, Madeline Kahn thing is. And it's delightful. So I'd say Clue. If you haven't seen Clue, for God's sakes, watch that shit.
By the way, I'm going to make what I believe is the first ever connection between Perfect Stranger and Clue.
Ooh.
Okay.
Was reading some trivia on Perfect Stranger, and this is probably the reason why Halle Berry ends up being the killer.
Uh-oh.
The filmmakers filmed 3 different endings to the film, each with a different character as the killer.
God damn it.
Which means that means that the movie can, if the movie Clue is doing a funny thing. Perfect Stranger, if you can make an ending where 3 different people are the fucking killer, then you don't have a really good movie.
You haven't written a mystery. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet they probably did one with Bruce Willis as the real killer and one with Giovanni Ribisi as the real killer. But still, I mean, I'm no filmmaker. I am a writer, an amateurish one, but know what story you're telling. But like, what story are you telling? If you film 3 different endings just to see which one plays best with the test audiences, you didn't really have a story to tell.
Yeah, I agree. The other part of this too is that the film's original setting was New Orleans. During pre-production, Hurricane Katrina struck.
Yikes.
The script was quickly rewritten to take place in New York City. So who knows what else was going on.
A lot of stuff filmed in Louisiana. Apparently they have very good tax breaks for filming locations.
Yeah.
The first 2 days I was in Las Vegas, my current home, on a movie channel, I watched Casino. Then the next night on TMC, the original Ocean's 11 was on. my question is, what movies have you watched that somewhat portray you in the moment that you were in? Also, Barrett, who reads these aloud on the podcast, you're wrong about pre-2014 Jay-Z. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I'm kidding. I love you. I just don't like pre-20.
Beyonce was overrated. So
we're hard on the Carters today.
Yes.
Anyway, so what are some movies that portray what you were in that's kind of surprisingly worked that synchronicity in?
And when I watched Dazed and Confused, the night, this was the night before I was supposed to go to my high school, and to get into this club, you had to do all these embarrassing things in front of people and stuff. Like you had to if the senior told you had to get up on the table in the cafeteria and sing something, you had to do it. If you had to do some weird shit with whipped cream, whatever, you had to do these type of things to get into the club. So, it's, there's a lot of things that you can do with whipped cream, and it always seems to involve getting into clubs. But I don't even remember what this club was called. And I don't even remember doing anything within this club at all. But I do remember that I was going to have to do this. The night before, watched Dazed and Confused at the Franklin Cinema. And there's a bunch of hazing shit that goes on in the very beginning of it, where the girls all have to do like really demeaning, fucked up things, and the guys are all getting paddled. Nothing to that extent going on the next day at my high school, but
the paddling of the swollen asses.
Yes, with paddles. It was kind of interesting to watch Dazed and Confused the night before, because it almost made me feel like, well, it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be as bad. It was kind of a good primer for what I was going to have to do the next day. So that was one. And then this is very general, but the movie Clerks came out when I was, working concessions at movie theater and everything, and all the little things that they say in there about customers, and anybody who's ever had to deal with customers in their life totally are down with what they're saying in Clerks. So, this job would be fucking great if it wasn't for the fucking customers.
That's a good montage right there too. Actually, is the when they're going back and forth about is this movie any good? And then what is it? What was the movie rental place where she's like, how much is this, or something like that? It's a bunch of like price tags around.
So Dante's like, get all these stupid customers to come in, and one guy's like, it's like, what do you mean there's no ice? You mean I have to drink this coffee hot? And then do you know how much this is, how much these cost? And there's like all these signs behind it that say 99 cents and everything. and then somebody has this really bizarre off the wall question, do you have this or whatever? And then it's the same people at the video store. He's like, ooh, Navy SEALs, and and he's like, I'm wondering if you have a movie for a 3-year-old child who chronically wets his bed, stuff like that.
I write a lot of sins about a fictionalized college ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
What?
This is an amalgamation of. I didn't have very many good relationships in college. And the Sins character likes to blame the girl for all of it. Although I think a lot of those Sins poke fun at me too. Relationships are two people things, right? Usually falls apart because of both people, except for when you get cheated on. So I had a college girlfriend that cheated on me. Was uncomfortably upfront about it. And we took about a week off, and then we decided we were gonna try to keep our relationship together. despite this, and this happened to be with the guy that I was really good friends with. So one of the ways we decide to regroup is we're going to take a long weekend and go home to my house. She could meet my folks, and we can be away from college and the campus and all our friends and work on our relationship. So we get there and we rent a movie. Bridges of Madison County is the movie we rented, because it was the most popular movie being rented at that time. It had come out the summer before and was a big hit. And this movie, as I like to say about some movies, is all about adultery. It's all about like these people finding letters that proved their mom had this torrid affair, and they always thought she was in love with their dad only. And that is the most uncomfortable movie watch I've ever had in my whole life, because every time somebody would mention, anytime even adultery was hinted at, but certainly every time they're like making out and shit, it was like I felt like she knew that I was mentally saying, yeah, this is you. You did this. And
was it just you and her?
Yes. Yes, we should have rented something good. Wizard of Oz.
Candle Shoe.
We didn't know anything about this movie. We just did. Oh, everybody loves this movie and made all this money, and it's Clint Eastwood, whatever. We didn't know it was like basically what
a book that was on the bestseller list for like 140 weeks or whatever it was.
And so, had I known the movie was going to shove a knife into our very recent relationship wound and swirl it around for a while, I wouldn't have watched it. So that was the best and most obvious answer I had to this question, is that I was in the middle of a little bit of a kind of an infidelity scenario myself, and I watched this movie. So, and
then you guys watched The English Patient.
Yeah. But it would have been the same kind of experience had The English Patient been something we watched at that time. Yep.
Did you stay with her for very much longer after that?
Oh, Jesus. Only long enough for her to cheat on me with the same guy again.
Oh no!
And at that point, it was done. And in hindsight, should have had more hand.
Oh no, that's not good.
No.
I also had a bunch of break. Are you done?
I am done. Yes.
I also had a lot of breakup movies. I had a horrible breakup right around the end of this century, and anything that ended it with a bad breakup or someone being hit by a car while spread eagling on a bike going down a highway. I don't know what specific movie I would be talking about. Those used to get me.
I just got a cramp. Oh, fuck.
But also, like when I started working at the psych hospital in 2002, I had gotten over all that shit and I was ready for the new shit. And as soon as I started working in there, it's a wholly unique experience. I wish everybody could have that for at least a month or so. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest started playing on like TCM or whatever was TCM, AMC probably back in those days when they showed American movie classics. And so it's weird to juxtapose my experience onto the 1960s psychiatric experience. But so that was very, very cool. Interestingly enough, I first introduced myself very, very briefly to John Nash around that time when A Beautiful Mind came out, which was, what was it, Chris, 2003?
2001.
That it came out? 2001. Okay. So it was right after it premiered in Nashville. I met him and I took him around the psych hospital, and he was commenting on how it was much more improved than what he had gone through. And that's very, very true. And you can see that in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Also, when I was in Chicago at Northwestern, we had a call with John Nash before he unfortunately passed away, and A Beautiful Mind came on that night. I was like, wow, that's very, very weird that I'm watching Russell Crowe portray this dude that I just talked to on the phone. So those were my weird things in the psych field, but mostly it's the breakup stuff and the people that die and shit. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is on there, even though it's much later. That one always gets me choked up because it's just so fucking well done, man. That's one of the most perfect movies I've seen like in the last 15, 20 years or so. It's just so good.
That's a trope in movies, right? Where people break up and then like every song that they hear on the radio has something to do with breakups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Joe lies when he cries. That'll never be me. That'll never be me.
It reminds me that one of the most inappropriate, it's hilariously darkly inappropriate in To Die For, when Matt Dillon gets killed and they go to the funeral and Nicole Kidman comes up there and presses play on like a boombox, and it's like All By Myself is what she plays.
Sick.
And everybody's just like, there's no way to like, remedy this because they're at a funeral. They want to be respectful because they think she cares. And it's so uncomfortable. That's going to do it for this week. Keep going to Scencast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter. We're on Discord. If you want to get on Discord, you can go to our Reddit page and find a link on the right side there, or you can private message me on Facebook, and I will give you a link there. And we're also on SoundCloud. That's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
It was more like 3 hours. He was like, "So, you ready?"
Right. Yeah. He was doing the thing that Eric in That 70s Show was doing with Donna, where it was like where they hadn't had sex yet, and they like, I guess they almost do or whatever, and then he keeps asking her like, "All right, are you okay? Are you ready now?" She's like, "No," and he's like, "All right. Are you ready now?"
Yeah. They're sitting on the bed at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's either the bed or the car. I can't remember. But he like every time he's like, all right. Yeah, I see what about now?
I don't even know where Harry Styles fit into all that stuff, because it was who was first? One of the Kennedys is in there too, right? Jeremy knows all this.
She dated some kind of Kennedy cousin, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know all of this. I don't know why you say this.
Well, there's definitely Gyllenhaal. There's definitely Mayer. There's definitely Calvin Harris. There's definitely Tom Hiddleston. There's definitely Joe Alwyn. There's definitely Harry Styles. There's definitely
no Bieber.
There's definitely Kanye.
Jesus Christ,
that's terrible.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Let's just Google it. No, let's. We've already lost like 39 minutes. Let's just get on with it.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
There's probably a whole like separate Wikipedia page entry for Taylor Swift.
I'm sure there is.
Watch it, bitch. Hey, so I've been meaning to send you over a couple of songs that I heard on XMU. That are fantastic. Have you guys heard this Cautious Clay song, Cold War?
There was a Cautious Clay song a year and a half ago that I fucking love. I don't think I've heard this one.
He's a bad motherfucker, man. And then Blue to Tiger, who I'd heard before, the female, I shouldn't say pop singer, like chillcore, I guess, singer. Called Figure It Out, which is badass. So I'll send those over to you. You should totally listen to
I
them.
was going to send over a song I heard that I don't know that has caught on, but it was like one of those, not critical cut, but like advanced placement kind of things. And it's basically AWOL Nation and Group Love.
Yeah.
Together. I don't even know if I like the song, but I have never heard a team up that sounded 100% like both groups. It sounds exactly like an AOL Nation song and exactly like a Group Love song.
I may have heard this song.
Thing.
I may have heard this song once, but I don't remember everything. I just remember the other night when I was going to sleep, I heard a song and I was like, that sounds like Group Love, but I'm not sure. And I didn't ever look it up. So
didn't you play me a bunch of tracks from Group Love one time, Chris? Like on the way to poker or something like that?
I played, when we drove to Atlanta, I played Group Love for both of you.
Yeah. I really liked that. I really enjoyed that.
They had just recently come out with that one album that has the "Welcome to Your Life." Yeah. We can be your fantasy. Yeah.
I like those guys.
Yeah.
All right.
So it sounds like both groups, huh?
Go ahead and click it. Give it a 30-second listen. I don't care.
That no talent hack.
Dude, I came down when I met with you guys, when I had Chef Dave come down with me in 2015, something like that. I was like, because I loved Chicago, but I came down, I was showing him all the sights in Nashville. I was like, I got to move back here. Like, it was just like a feeling of like, I got to get back here. And there's just a weird thing. So I understand it.
Alfred Molina is coming back for the next Spider-Man movie as Doc Ock again.
Doc Ock.
So we've got Doc Ock from the Tobey Maguire, Jamie Foxx's Electro from the Andrew Garfield. At this point, is there any question that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are coming back?
I don't like that. I don't like
there's no
that.
question.
I don't. They may not be signed yet, but that's got to be the plan, right? You wouldn't bring back the villains from the other series.
Well, no. But they also put in J.K. Simmons as the J. Jonah Jameson at the end of that last one before they even had the.
That's true. That's true.
But I agree with you with this casting, this specific casting, where they have all these people from different iterations of Spider-Mans. That's probably where they're headed, especially after the success of Multiverse.
Well, yeah, exactly. And with J. Jonah Jameson, you could at least argue they said to themselves, nobody else can play this character. But you can't do that with Jamie Foxx's Electro. You can't say they want to put Electro in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, but no one could ever play that character better than Jamie Foxx did. Got to get him back.
Exactly.
Very clear multiverse thing going on here, and I would be shocked at this point if the other two Spider-Men did not show up. And you know what? I don't think this movie is going to be very fun for me personally.
No.
It's going to be a big cameo fest and a big camera pans over, bump, music beat, and everyone's going to roar, and I'm going to put my penis away and leave halfway through.
I don't like it. My wife pronounces it Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Like it's his last name. Like he's...
Yeah, there's a whole bit on Friends about this. Where
are you serious?
Yes, where Phoebe calls it Spider-Man, and he's like, Chandler's like, it's not his name. It's not like Goldman.
Are you serious?
He's Spider-Man, and he goes, "There's no Goldman. There should be a Goldman." Anyway,
that's hilarious. Wow, we had a conversation that was exactly like that without knowing that existed.
That's awesome.
Wow, I was like, Spider-Man? Like that's his last name? Reminded me of an old. This is terrible. There was a Growing Pains episode where Alan Thicke was chastising Mike Seaver, and I like it when I say the actor's actual name and then the character's name, so it sounds all weird multiverse. But he was cheating. Mike was cheating. Kirk Cameron, he was cheating. And Alan Thicke was like, "Oh, you got caught cheating." He was like, No, I wasn't doing anything. He's like, "You said that the last time when you said your name was Seaverman so that you could get all the Jewish holidays off."
Oh, Kirk Cameron.
What's that? Is Alan Thicke still alive, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he is.
His son did the thing.
Yeah, he came and went, man. Poor Robin. Not poor. He was married to fantastic Mrs. Boobs. What was her name?
Paula Patton.
Paula Patton, that's right.
Fantastic Mrs. Boobs? Come on, if I said that, there would be a little bit of, shame, right? Fantastic Mrs. Boobs?
He was always like a crooner, and then he did that blurred lines thing. And he was
hey.
And everybody loved blurred lines until they stopped. It was a huge hit, and then suddenly it just became, we got to stop liking this. And,
right.
So
we were like, no. Just collectively, everybody said no.
Well, wasn't it around that time that we started hearing about him cheating on Paula Patton and all that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what ended him. People were like, I think most people are like, I'm okay with the cheating, with certain couples or whatever. But like Paula Patton, like, how do you do that? That's one of those, like, how do you do that to her type of moments? Because everybody knows Paula Patton's awesome.
Well, he also wrote like a apology song for her and like publicly like admitted his wrongdoing and was like, take me back and all that stuff. It was very cringy. Yeah.
So
and he
but I'm sure he's
so much
out.
that he cried for 3 days straight afterwards.
Right.
So
I'm sure he's out scoring Poontang now though. And she's going to get him Red Lobster if he fucks her good.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
All right.
You heard about that, right, Jeremy? That Red Lobster thing? She did that in a song. She put it in a song that
Formation.
Yeah.
She's like, if he fucked me good, I'd take his ass to Red Lobster.
Who sang this?
Beyonce.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
She can do whatever the fuck she wants to.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. She's just like everybody. She's a little overrated. She's awesome, but at this
her
point,
music recently, besides a few choice cuts off of Lemonade, I hated that.
She could put out a fucking bluegrass album, and before hearing one track, there'd be 200 million people on Twitter going, "She's a goddess! Oh, she's perfect."
Yeah, she and even Rihanna, I think, has reached that point where like anything they do is going to be almost universally acclaimed.
Isn't that the Madonna rule essentially, right? Madonna had those 2 or 3 like transcendent albums, and then like no matter what she did, people just revered her no matter what. Yeah. And so if you make 3 albums in a row that are huge hits, have all those big songs on it, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You get that, you get that treatment.
Let's move on.
Jeremy just died laughing at something he just didn't tell us.
I was going to make an ill-advised Stevie Wonder joke.
Okay.
Okay, the joke was going to be, who's a no-talent hack?
Oh, okay.
Stevie Wonder?
Stevie Wonder. And then, that, of course, is completely false, but because he's so lovable and awesome, I didn't want to make that joke, but then I went ahead and did it anyway. So
there you go.
It's like, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. You got chocolate in my group love.
That's right. That sounds way dirtier than you probably intended.
He said he was going to stop it and restart it, and it's still going, and he left the room. So I'm not sure Barrett can be trusted today.
He cannot be.
Get on all 3 of us where it's not fucky.
Does tend to get fucky when the 3 of us are involved.
Fucky. Very fucky.
It's I think Chris Rock calls Jamie Kennedy fucky in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He's like, no, your name's fucky.
There's no boogers in it, sir.
Booger free, sir. Get the fuck.
Or take your dick out. I might want to cut that part.
Or take your dick out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be fucking rad. I'm going to cut that part out.
Yeah, probably a good idea.